Kiwu stood in the center of the Galaxy Council chambers. The massive room stretched out around him like a metal cave. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows, all looking down at him. Their eyes glowed different colors in the dim light. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like living crystals. For 30 years, humans had come to this place. They had talked and argued and made peace between fighting species. They had stopped wars before they started. They had saved millions of lives with their words. Today was different. The Human Federation declines to participate in this emergency session, Kiwu said. His voice was calm and clear. It echoed through the silent chamber. Yi-Jin, the council chairwoman, leaned forward in her tall seat. Her blue skin seemed to glow brighter with anger. She was an Altarian, and her people had ruled the council for over a century. Her 6 arms moved as she spoke. Ambassador Kiwu, this is not acceptable. The Outer Rim territories are burning. 3 species are ready to go to war. We need human mediation now. Kiwu did not move. Behind him stood Taimin, his aide. The young man looked calm, but his eyes were always watching. Few people knew that Taimin was more than just an aide. He worked for human military intelligence. We understand the situation, Kiwu replied, but humanity is pursuing other priorities at this time. A wave of shocked sounds filled the chamber. Aliens clicked, hissed, and buzzed their surprise. In the upper section, Dae-hyun stood up. The Zenthari security chief was tall and covered in gray fur. His yellow eyes burned with worry. Other priorities? Ye-Jin's voice rose high. Ambassador, humans have always been the peacekeepers. Without your people, the galaxy falls apart. You know this. Kiwu nodded slowly. We have served that role for 3 decades. We have given our time, our resources, and sometimes our lives to keep peace between species that choose to fight. But today, Earth withdraws from all pending negotiations. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted in dozens of different languages. Some stood up from their seats. Others hit their desks with their fists or claws. The sound was like a storm of anger and fear. Ye-Jin called for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. When it was quiet again, her voice was cold. Explain yourself, human. What could be more important than preventing galactic war? Kiwu looked around the chamber. He had stood in this same spot many times before. He had helped solve the mining crisis of 2387. He had stopped the trade war between the Kelvani and the Thorax Collective. He had spent years of his life in this room, making peace. We are reallocating our resources, he said. Simply. To what? Dae-hyun demanded from his high seat. That is not your concern. Taemin spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet but firm. Humanity's internal affairs are no longer subject to council oversight. Ye-Jin's blue skin turned darker. You cannot simply leave. The Vorthan Empire and the Kalari Republic are ready to attack each other over the Sigma mining fields. Without human mediation, millions will die. That is their choice, Kiwu said. If they choose war over peace, that is not humanity's responsibility. The chamber fell silent. For 30 years, humans had always taken responsibility. They had always stepped in to help. They had always put galactic peace before their own interests. Delegate Corvell of the Sindari Collective stood up. His insect-like body clicked as he moved. The humans mock us. They think they are better than the rest of the galaxy. We think no such thing, Kiwu replied calmly. We simply choose not to participate in conflicts that do not involve us. But you are involved, Ye-Jin said desperately. You are part of this council. You have obligations. We are withdrawing from the council. The words hit the chamber like a bomb. Complete silence followed. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop making noise. Hai-Jin gripped her chair with all 6 arms. You cannot withdraw. No species has ever left the council. We are the first, Kiwoo said. Dae-hyun activated his security communicator. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. Kiwoo knew the security chief was probably ordering surveillance on all human activities. It did not matter. Everything was already in motion. This is madness, Hye-jin whispered. Without human mediation, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Perhaps, Kiwoo agreed. Or perhaps the galaxy will learn to solve its own problems. He turned to leave. Taemin followed behind him. As they walked toward the exit, delegates shouted questions and demands. Kiwoo ignored them all. Ambassador, Hye-jin called out. Please, think about what you are doing. Kiwoo stopped at the door. He turned back to face the chamber one last time. Hundreds of alien faces looked at him with fear, anger, and confusion. We have thought about this for a very long time, he said. Good day, Chairwoman. As they walked through the corridors of the space station, Taemin spoke quietly. The surveillance drones are already following us. Let them, Kiwoo replied. They will not learn anything useful. Are you sure about this? Kiwoo smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in the council chambers in years. Taemin, do you know how long we have been planning this moment? Since the beginning? Since before the beginning. Since before we ever joined this council. Kiwoo looked out through a window at the stars beyond. They think they know humanity. They think we are weak because we choose peace. They are about to learn how wrong they are. Behind them, the Galaxy Council continued to argue and shout. They demanded that humanity return. They threatened economic sanctions. They pleaded for human help. None of it mattered. For the first time in 30 years, humanity was free to make its own choices, and those choices had been made long ago. As their ship left the space station, Taemin sent a coded message back to Earth. 3 simple words that would change everything. The game begins. Dae-hyun stood in his security office aboard the Council space station. 3 massive screens showed him data from across the galaxy. Red warning lights blinked everywhere. Each light meant trouble. Report, he ordered his aide, Min Seo. The female Zenthari officer had worked intelligence for 20 years. Her gray fur was streaked with silver from stress. The Vorthon Empire has moved 3 battle fleets toward Kalari space, Min Seo said. The Kalari Republic has activated their defense networks. Both sides are demanding council intervention. And the Sindari Collective? They have begun expanding into the neutral zones. They claim the council no longer has authority to stop them. Dae-hyun growled low in his throat. In just 1 week since the humans left, everything was falling apart. He touched a control, and the center screen showed a map of human space. What about our surveillance of human territories? Min Seo's ears flattened against her head. That is the problem, sir. We are getting nothing. Explain. Human colonies have gone dark. Not destroyed, not attacked. They simply stopped communicating with the outside galaxy. Dae-hyun studied the map. Red dots marked 37 human colonies. All of them showed the same status. No response. Communication equipment failure? No, sir. When we send long-range scans, the colonies are still there. Cities are still active. Ships are moving around. But they will not answer any calls. The door to the office opened. Hye-jin entered without waiting for permission. The Altarian chairwoman looked terrible. Her blue skin was pale, and her 6 arms shook with exhaustion. Any progress? She asked desperately. The humans are hiding something, Dae-hyun replied. All their colonies have cut outside communication. Their trade ships have stopped making deliveries to alien worlds. Hye-jin collapsed into a chair. The economic reports are coming in. Human businesses are withdrawing from every trade agreement. They are canceling contracts worth billions of credits. Min Seo pulled up another screen. We have also lost contact with human diplomatic missions. Yesterday, The human embassy on Keltor Prime was completely empty. The staff vanished overnight. Where did they go? Unknown. The building was cleaned out. Nothing left behind except this message. The screen showed a simple text document. It contained only 5 words. Thank you for your hospitality. Dae-hyun felt cold fear in his stomach. Humans were always polite, even when they were leaving. But this level of coordination was impossible to achieve overnight. It would take months of planning. How long have they been preparing this? He wondered aloud. Sir, Minseo said quietly, I think we need to see something else. She brought up a new screen. This one showed energy readings from deep space sensors. Strange patterns of light moved through the empty areas between star systems. What am I looking at? Energy signatures in the galactic void, areas where no ships should be traveling. But these signatures are massive, much larger than any known spacecraft. Hae-jin leaned forward. How massive? Each one is the size of a small moon. The room fell silent. Ships the size of moons did not exist. The largest vessels in the galaxy were Council dreadnoughts, and they were barely the size of cities. Could they be space stations? Dae-hyun asked. No, sir. They are moving. Fast. Faster than any space station could travel. Hae-jin stood up suddenly. We need to investigate. Take a fleet to human space. Demand answers. That might not be wise, Minseo warned. If the humans are building weapons that large, then we need to know about it. Hae-jin's voice cracked with stress. The galaxy is falling apart. The Vorthan and Kalari fleets are shooting at each other as we speak. Thousands are dying every hour. Dae-hyun activated his communicator. Bridge, prepare my command ship. We are going to Earth. Sir, the bridge officer replied, we have another problem. The human colony on Kepler 442 just disappeared. Disappeared? Yes, sir. Long-range sensors show nothing where the colony used to be. No debris, no energy signatures. It is like the planet was never colonized at all. Minseo's claws dug into her chair. That is impossible. Kepler 442 had 3 million human colonists. Check the other colonies, Dae-hyun ordered. The next few minutes were filled with tense silence as reports came in. One by one, human colonies were vanishing from sensor readings. Not destroyed, simply gone. Tau Ceti colony, gone. Wolf 359 settlements, gone. Proxima Centauri stations, gone. Hae-jin stared at the screens in horror. Where are they going? On the main display, more energy signatures appeared in deep space. The massive objects were moving toward the edge of the galaxy, away from all known civilizations. Get me a direct communication link to Earth, Dae-hyun commanded. Trying, sir. No response. Keep trying. Minutes passed. Finally, a transmission came through. The screen showed a human woman sitting in what looked like an office. She had short black hair and wore a simple uniform. This is So Young, Administrator of Earth Colony Services. How may I help you? Hae-jin stepped forward. Administrator, this is Chairwoman Hae-jin of the Galaxy Council. We demand to know what humanity is doing. So Young smiled politely. I am sorry, Chairwoman, but I cannot provide that information. Cannot or will not? Both. Good day. The transmission ended. Dae-hyun slammed his fist on the desk. They are mocking us. Sir, Minseo said urgently. Another energy signature just appeared. This one is different, much larger than the others. The main screen showed a massive shape moving through space near the outer edge of human territory. It was so large that the computer had trouble calculating its size. How big? Hae-jin whispered. Approximately the size of Earth's moon. And it is. Sir, this is impossible. What? It is accelerating. Nothing that large should be able to move that fast. Dae-hyun realized his hands were shaking. For 30 years, humans had seemed weak. They always gave in to demands. They always chose peace over conflict. They never showed any advanced technology beyond what other species possessed, but what if that had all been an act? Chairwoman, he said slowly, I think we have made a terrible mistake. What do you mean? I think we never knew humanity at all. On the screens around them, more colonies vanished. More massive objects moved through deep space. And somewhere in the galaxy, wars raged without human mediators to stop them. The Vorthon Empire had just destroyed a Kalari medical station. The Kalari Republic responded by bombing a Vorthon civilian transport. Both sides screamed for Council intervention, but the Council had no power to intervene. Without human mediation, they were just another group of aliens arguing in a big room. Heejin sat down heavily. How did we lose control so quickly? Dae-hyun did not answer. He was watching the energy signatures move through space. Each one represented something humanity had built in secret, something large enough to carry entire populations. They are not just leaving the Council, he realized. They are leaving the galaxy. Dae-hyun's investigation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Earth was surrounded by massive metal structures. Orbital rings circled the planet like giant jewelry. Space stations the size of cities floated everywhere. Construction ships moved between them like busy insects. This is impossible, Minseo whispered. When did they build all this? The communications officer, a young Zenthari named Jun Ho, looked up from his station. Sir, we are receiving a transmission. From Earth. Put it through. The main screen showed a human man sitting in what looked like a military command center. He had graying hair and calm eyes. Behind him, other humans worked at control stations. Welcome to Earth space, the man said politely. I am Dong-woo, Planetary Defense Coordinator. How may we assist you? Hai-jin stepped forward. She had insisted on coming with the investigation fleet. Dong-woo, we demand to know what humanity is doing. Your colonies are disappearing. We detect massive objects moving through space. Explain yourselves. Dong-woo smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Chairwoman, you are no longer in a position to demand anything from humanity. That is where you are wrong, Dae-hyun interrupted. We have 15 warships. You will answer our questions or face the consequences. 15 warships, Dong-woo repeated thoughtfully. How interesting. He touched something off-screen. Suddenly, the space around the investigation fleet lit up with energy signatures. Hundreds of vessels materialized from nowhere. They had been invisible until that moment. We have 300 ships in this system alone, Dong-woo said calmly. Each one is more advanced than your best warships. Would you like to test them? Dae-hyun felt his blood turn cold. The human ships looked different from anything he had seen before. They were sleek and dangerous, like metal sharks. Impossible, Hye-jin breathed. Humans do not have advanced military technology. Do we not? Dong-woo asked. Or did we simply choose not to show it? Another human appeared on the screen. This one was a woman with short hair and engineer markings on her uniform. I am Yoonji, Chief Engineer of the Exodus Project. Perhaps you would like to see what we have been building? The screen changed to show images from around the solar system. Massive structures floated in space near every planet. They were not space stations. They were something else entirely. Mobile habitats, Yoonji explained. Self-contained worlds that can travel between star systems. Each one can support 5 million people indefinitely. How many have you built? Minseo asked in shock. 237 so far. We plan to complete over 300 before the project ends. Hye-jin gripped her chair. 300 worlds? That could hold all of humanity. Plus, room for growth, Dong-woo agreed. The screen changed again. Now it showed a human man in formal clothes. He looked familiar to Dae-hyun. It was Sang-ho, a former council mediator who had retired 5 years ago. Hello, old friends, Sang-ho said. Surprised to see me? Sang-ho, Hyejin said weakly. We thought you retired. I did retire. From the council. But I have been very busy with other projects. What projects? Planning humanity's independence. Did you really think we enjoyed being the galaxy's babysitters for 30 years? Dae-hyun realized his mouth was hanging open. You have been planning this since the beginning? Before the beginning, Sang-ho confirmed. We knew that joining the council was a temporary measure. We needed time to develop the technology and resources for true independence. But why? Hyejin pleaded. We gave you respect, trade agreements, protected territories. You gave us responsibility for everyone else's problems, Dongwoo replied. Every war we prevented, every conflict we mediated, every peace we negotiated, it all became our fault when things went wrong later. Yoonji nodded. We studied galactic history. Every species that becomes the peacekeeper eventually gets blamed for every problem. Then they get destroyed by the people they tried to help. So you decided to leave, Min Seo said quietly. We decided to become truly independent, Sang-ho corrected. Do you know what that means? Tell us, Dae-hyun said. It means we do not need anyone else for anything. Our mobile habitats have closed-loop ecosystems. We can grow all our own food, manufacture all our own goods, and defend ourselves against any threat. The screen showed more images. Vast gardens inside the mobile worlds, factories that could build anything, schools and hospitals and homes for millions of people. Each habitat is like a small planet, Yoonji explained, but better than a planet because we can move them anywhere we want. Where will you go? Hyejin asked desperately. Away, Dongwoo replied simply. Far away from species that choose war over peace. But the galaxy needs you. Hyejin's voice cracked. Without human mediation, everything is falling apart. The Vorthon and Kalari are killing each other. The Sindari collective is enslaving smaller species. Genocides are starting. Yes, Sang-ho said sadly. We know. We receive all the news reports. Then come back. Help us. No. The simple word hit like a physical blow. Hyejin staggered backward. Please, she whispered. Millions are dying. Millions died before humans joined the council, Dongwoo pointed out. Millions died during our time as mediators, despite our best efforts. Millions will die after we leave. The difference is that now, those deaths are not our responsibility. How? Can you be so cold? We are not cold, Yoonji said gently. We are tired. Tired of cleaning up messes we did not make. Tired of being blamed when our solutions do not last forever. Tired of sacrificing our people's future for the sake of species that will never learn to live in peace. Dae-hyun found his voice. What if we offered you better terms? Permanent council seats, territorial concessions, exclusive trade rights. What would we trade? Dongwoo asked. We are completely self-sufficient now. Then what do you want? 2. Be left alone. The investigation fleet sat in silence among the human ships. Around them, the massive mobile habitats continued their preparations to leave. Dae-hyun watched millions of humans moving from their old colonies to their new mobile worlds. When will you be gone? He asked finally. Soon, Dongwoo replied. Very soon. And you will never come back? Why would we? The galaxy has made its choice. You prefer war to peace, conflict to cooperation, blame to responsibility. We choose differently. Hyejin collapsed into her chair. This is the end of everything. No, Sang-ho said kindly. This is the end of one thing and the beginning of another. The galaxy will learn to solve its own problems. Or it will not. Either. Wei, that choice belongs to you now. The transmission ended. Around the investigation fleet, the human ships began to move away. They were giving the aliens a clear path to leave. Dae-hyun realized he had no choice but to take it. Young-soo stood on the bridge of the Habitat Fleet flagship. Through the massive windows, he could see dozens of mobile worlds moving through space like a slow parade of planets. Each one glowed with the lights of cities and towns inside their protective shells. "Status report," he requested from his crew. "Habitat Group 7 has finished evacuation from the Centauri colonies," reported his communications officer. "Habitat Group 12 is loading the last civilians from Wolf 359. Young-Soo nodded. The evacuation was going perfectly. 30 years of planning made everything run like clockwork. He touched a control panel, and the main screen showed him what was happening on one of the habitats. Inside the mobile world, children played in parks while their parents unpacked belongings in new homes. The children did not understand what was happening. To them, this was just moving to a new house that could fly between the stars. "Commander," his tactical officer called out, "we have a problem. Report. Vorthan Empire battle fleet approaching. 12 heavy cruisers and support ships." Young-Soo was not surprised. Intelligence reports had warned that some species might try to stop the human exodus by force. The Vorthans were desperate for human mediation in their war with the Kalari. "Republic!" "Open a communication channel," Young-Soo ordered. The screen showed a Vorthan admiral. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and an octopus, with green scales and multiple arms. His name was Gorthak, and he was known for being ruthless. "Human fleet, you will stop your evacuation immediately," Gorthak demanded. "The Vorthan Empire requires human diplomatic services." "Admiral Gorthak," Young-Soo replied politely. "Humanity has withdrawn from galactic affairs. We cannot help you." "You can, and you will. My ships have you surrounded." Young-Soo looked at his tactical display. The Vorthan ships had indeed formed a circle around the Habitat fleet. Their weapons were powered up and ready to fire. "Admiral, are you threatening civilian populations?" Young-Soo asked calmly. "I am doing what is necessary. Turn your ships around and return to Council space." Young-Soo sighed. He had hoped this would not be necessary. "I am sorry you feel that way." He made a gesture to his tactical officer. Instantly, the space around the Vorthan fleet filled with human warships. They appeared from nowhere, just like at Earth. Advanced stealth technology made them invisible until they chose to be seen. Gorthak's eyes widened on the screen. "Where did they come from?" "They have been here all along," Young-Soo explained. "Did you really think we would move our civilian population without military protection?" The tactical display showed the true situation. Each habitat in the fleet was protected by dozens of escort ships. The humans had not just built mobile worlds, they had built a mobile navy to guard them. "This is impossible," Gorthak sputtered. "Our intelligence report said humans had no advanced military technology." "Your intelligence was wrong," Young-Soo said simply. "Or rather, it was correct based on what we chose to show you." On another part of the screen, Young-Soo could see what was happening inside the habitats. Human families continued their normal lives, unaware of the military confrontation outside. Children attended schools, adults worked in factories and offices, elderly people tended gardens. Life went on as if they were still on planets instead of moving through space. "Admiral," Gorthak said desperately, "my people are dying in the war with the Kalari. We need human mediation." "Then stop fighting," Young-Soo suggested. "It is not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You choose to fight, so you suffer the consequences. That is no longer humanity's problem." Gorthak's face twisted with anger. "Fire warning shots! Show these humans we mean business!" The Vorthan ships began to power up their main weapons. Young-Soo watched calmly as energy built up in their gun barrels. "Sir," his tactical officer asked quietly, "should we return fire?" "No need," Young-Soo replied. The Vorthan ships fired their warning shots into empty space, but when they tried to reload their weapons, nothing happened. Their energy systems had simply stopped working. "What did you do?" Gorthak demanded. "Advanced technology," Young-Soo explained. "We can disable your ships without destroying them. Your crews are safe, but your weapons no longer function." "You are bluffing." Gorthak tried to fire again. His weapons remained dead. He tried to activate his engines to ram the human ships. Those stopped working too. The entire Vorthan fleet was now floating helplessly in space. As I said, Young-Su continued, we can defend ourselves quite well, but we prefer not to kill anyone if we can avoid it. Through another communication channel, Young-Su received a priority message. He read it quickly and smiled. Admiral, I have just received word that the last human civilian has been evacuated from the old colonies. Our business in this galaxy is now complete. You cannot leave, Gorthak shouted. The galaxy needs humanity. The galaxy has survived for millions of years without humanity. It will survive for millions more. On the habitat called New Sol, a little girl named Hayrin pressed her face against a viewing window. She watched the stars moving past as her new home traveled through space. Mom? She asked. Why did we have to leave our old house? Her mother, Bo-Ram, knelt down beside her. Because sometimes, when people keep fighting and cannot learn to be nice to each other, it is better to find a new place to live. Will we ever go back? Bo-Ram looked out at the stars. Behind them, she knew, wars were raging across the galaxy. Species that had depended on human peacekeeping were now learning to solve their own problems or destroy themselves trying. I do not think so, little one. But look around you. Is this not a wonderful new home? Hayrin looked around the habitat. It had everything their old colony had possessed, but better. The parks were larger, the schools were newer, and best of all, everyone here wanted to live in peace. I like it, she decided. It is like living inside a spaceship that is also a whole world. That is exactly what it is. Back on the flagship bridge, Young-Su was ending his conversation with Admiral Gorthak. Your weapons will start working again in 24 hours, he informed the Vorthan commander. That should give us enough time to leave this system. Where are you going? Gorthak asked weakly. Away. Far away. But what about the galaxy? What about peace? Young-Su considered the question seriously. Admiral, for 30 years humanity tried to teach the galaxy how to live in peace. We mediated thousands of conflicts. We prevented hundreds of wars. We saved millions of lives. Yes, and we are grateful. But you never learned. The moment we stepped back, you all went back to fighting. That tells us that you do not want peace. You want someone else to enforce peace for you. That is not true. Prove it. Stop fighting the Kalari. Make peace on your own. Show the galaxy that you can solve problems without human help. It is too late for that. Too much blood has been spilled. It is never too late for peace, Admiral. But you have to choose it for yourself. No one else can choose it for you. The transmission ended. Around the habitat fleet, the human escort ships began to move. They formed a protective formation around the mobile worlds as the entire group prepared to leave the galaxy behind. Young-Su looked at his star charts. Their destination was far beyond the edge of known space, in the void between galaxies. There they would build a new civilization based on their own choices, rather than the demands of others. All ships, he announced over the fleet communication. System, this is Commander Young-Su. Operation Exodus is now complete. We are going home. The greatest migration in galactic history had begun. 1 year had passed since humanity left the galaxy. Kiwu, now wearing the uniform of an admiral in the Human Federation, walked through the corridors of New Haven. The mobile habitat was one of the largest in the fleet, serving as the diplomatic and administrative center of their new civilization. Through the transparent walls, he could see other habitats moving in formation. Each one was a complete world, with cities and farms and factories. Children who had been born during the journey would grow up never knowing what it was like to live on a fixed planet. Kiwu's destination was the neutral trading station on the edge of what used to be Council space. Intelligence reports said refugees from the Galactic Wars were gathering there. Some humans felt they should help, but Kiwu knew better. This was a reconnaissance mission, nothing more. The trading station looked terrible. Half the docking bays were damaged from fighting. Emergency lights flickered in the corridors. The air smelled of fear and desperation. Kiwu made his way to the central marketplace. It used to be a busy place where dozens of species traded goods and information. Now it was mostly empty. A few desperate merchants tried to sell whatever they could find. Admiral Kiwu. He turned to see a familiar figure. Jin, the former chairwoman of the Galaxy Council, stood behind him. But she looked nothing like the powerful leader he remembered. Her blue skin was pale and scarred. Her 6 arms were thin from hunger. Her clothes were torn and dirty. "Chairwoman," Kiwu said politely. "You look unwell." Jin laughed bitterly. "Chairwoman of what? The council dissolved 6 months ago. No one listens to us anymore." "I see. What happened? What do you think happened? Without human mediation?" Every old conflict came back to life. The Vorthon Empire conquered half the Kalari Republic before the Kalari unleashed a biological weapon that killed billions. The Sindari Collective enslaved 12 smaller species before 3 of those species allied together and bombed the Sindari homeworld into radioactive dust. Kiwu nodded calmly. He had read the reports, but hearing it from Jin made it more real. "And your people?" he asked. "The Altarian worlds were caught in the middle of a war between the Thorax Collective and the Kelvani Trade Union. Our planets are gone, destroyed. I am one of maybe 1,000 survivors scattered across the galaxy." "I am sorry for your loss." Jin stared at him with angry eyes. "Are you? Are you really sorry? Or are you just being polite?" Kiwu considered the question honestly. "I am sorry that people chose war over peace. I am sorry that entire species destroyed themselves rather than learn to cooperate. But I am not sorry that humanity is no longer responsible for cleaning up the mess." "How can you say that? We needed you. You needed us to solve problems you created. That is not the same thing." Jin moved closer to him. Other refugees in the marketplace had noticed their conversation. Some were listening openly. "You abandoned us," she accused. "You left the galaxy to burn." "We left the galaxy to make its own choices," Kiwu corrected. "For 30 years, humanity prevented you from learning to solve your own problems. We thought we were helping, but we were actually making things worse." "Making things worse? We had peace." "You had temporary ceasefires enforced by human threats and bribes. That is not real peace. Real peace comes from inside. It comes from choosing cooperation over conflict." A Kalari refugee approached them. His reptilian face was marked with radiation burns from the Vorthon War. "Human, my children are dead because you would not help us." Kiwu looked at the alien with genuine sadness. "Your children are dead because your government chose to fight a war instead of making peace. That choice belonged to your people, not to humanity." "But you could have stopped it?" "Yes, we could have. Just like we stopped hundreds of other conflicts over the years." "And what did that teach you?" "It taught you that whenever you had a problem, humans would fix it for you." The Kalari's eyes filled with tears. "So you let us all die to teach us a lesson? We let you make your own choices and face the consequences of those choices. That is what freedom means." More refugees gathered around them. Kiwu saw species he recognized and others he did not. Some were survivors of wars. Others were refugees from genocides. All of them looked at him with a mixture of hope and hatred. "Please," a young Zenthari female said. "Come back. Help us rebuild." Kiwu shook his head gently. "We cannot rebuild for you. You must do that yourselves." "We do not know how." "Then learn. Start small. Make peace with your neighbors. Trade instead of fight. Choose cooperation instead of conquest." "It is too late for that," Jin said bitterly. "Too much damage has been done. Too many people are dead." It is never too late to choose peace, Kiwu replied. But that choice has to come from you, not from human mediators or council resolutions or threats of intervention. It has to come from inside your own hearts. He looked around at the gathered refugees. You are all here together, different species who were enemies a year ago. Are you fighting each other now? No, the Zenthari female admitted. We are all just trying to survive. Then you have already taken the first step toward peace. You have chosen cooperation over conflict because you need each other. But what about our homeworlds? What about rebuilding our civilizations? That is up to you. Humanity will not stop you from rebuilding, but we will not do the rebuilding for you. Heejin grabbed Kiwu's arm with two of her hands. At least take some of us with you. We could live in your mobile worlds. Kiwu gently removed her hands. We will accept individual refugees who truly want to live in peace. But we will not accept representatives of governments or species groups. Those old loyalties lead back to the same conflicts. What does that mean? It means you would have to give up being Altarian. You would have to become human in everything except biology. You would have to accept our values and our way of life completely. Hyejin stepped back. You want us to abandon our cultures? I want you to abandon the parts of your cultures that lead to war. The parts that say your species is better than others. The parts that justify violence for political goals. The parts that blame others for your problems. That is asking us to stop being who we are. Is it? Or is it asking you to become who you could be? The marketplace fell silent. Around them, damaged walls showed scorch marks from recent fighting. The refugees clutched their few possessions and tried to imagine a future without war. How do we contact you? The Zenthari female asked finally. If some of us want to join your people? Kiwu handed her a small communication device. This will reach our diplomatic service. But understand, we are very selective. We only accept people who truly want to live in peace. He turned to leave, then paused. Chairwoman Hyejin, you asked if I am sorry for what happened to the galaxy. I am, but I am also proud of what humanity has become. What is that? Free. For the first time in our history, we are truly free to choose our own destiny. We are not responsible for anyone else's choices. We are not required to solve anyone else's problems. We can focus on building the civilization we want instead of fixing the civilizations others have broken. He gestured toward the viewport, where distant stars marked the direction of the human fleet. Out there, our children are growing up in a society without war. They will never know what it feels like to be forced to choose between their own people's interests and galactic peace. They will never have to sacrifice their future for the mistakes of others. And you think that is worth all the death in the galaxy? Kaiwu met her eyes directly. I think the death in the galaxy is the result of choices made by the people who live here. Humanity is not responsible for those choices. We never were. As he walked away, Kiwu heard Heejin calling after him. You have become cold, Admiral. You used to care about others. He stopped but did not turn around. I still care, Chairwoman, but I have learned the difference between caring about someone and being responsible for their choices. One leads to compassion. The other leads to slavery. Kiwu left the trading station and returned to his ship. As they traveled back toward the human fleet, he looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them, the mobile habitats continued their journey to a new home between galaxies. Humanity had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the freedom to fail. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to walk away. The galaxy would have to find its own path to peace. Humanity had found theirs.